But the Himalayas is a wave that I'd like to spend some more time at. I almost drowned there about 3 years ago. I had a real close call, and it's been really hard for me to get back out there, kind of clear that mental space. I just can't get my head straight there. So that's been a goal for me for a while.
Welcome to the Flow State Yoga for Athletes podcast. I'm your host, Dan Rosenak, lifelong student athlete, here to share with you interesting discussions featuring athletes and coaches exploring health and human performance, yoga, and flow state awareness. I hope this show helps us all access our highest potential. Thank you and enjoy the journey. Welcome to the Flow State Yoga Therapy Podcast. Corrie Gray from Oahu, big wave surfer, realtor, and multi-sport athlete, originally from my home state of New Jersey. She grew up in Manasquan. We're going to talk about her surfing journey, her athletic journey, her current goals and her training, and I think this is going to be a great opportunity. So thanks for joining us, Corrie.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell us what it was like growing up in Manasquan.
I actually grew up in central New Jersey, so I spent my summers in Manasquan. I've got a lot of family that was born and raised in Manasquan, so we always came back to that one place. But my summers were spent strictly at the inlet. I did junior guards for many, many years. We would always end up at nationals in California, Huntington Beach. And we had so much fun. I ended up being an instructor for junior guards later on because I just love the program. And I'm watching it unfold here. And I have to get involved somehow out here too. Growing up in Manasquan was... we just prayed for hurricanes. Yeah. We wanted them to really pump through the inlet. But it was a great place to learn how to surf. Definitely a great place to learn how to surf. Right hand, point break, all sand, obviously. Yeah.
If there are any waves on the East Coast that have an inkling of similarity to what you might see out on Oahu, I'd say Manasquan might be one of them. Maybe.
Yeah.
On a good day.
We'll wait. On a really good day.
On a really good day. Yeah. So did anyone in your family surf, or how did you get drawn into surfing?
Yeah, nobody in my family surfed. Through junior guards, we would have the paddle boards and we'd always try to stand up on them, and we were super young and I loved it. So I would always watch all the older kids surfing, and I was probably 7 and I was like, hey, can I try this? I went to my parents and was like, can I get a lesson? And they were like, yep. And I got my first lesson. I've got very funny videos of it. And it was over for me. Yeah, I got my first gray foam top board and I was obsessed. I loved it.
And how old were you then when you first?
I'm probably 7.
7, yeah.
Yeah, I was really young.
And you were playing a lot of sports in high school.
Yeah.
You attended the Pennington School in the Trenton area, and went on to play lacrosse in college, right, at Guilford.
Yep.
Tell us about that. How did that athletic experience shape you, and who were maybe some of your key influences there?
I've got a really athletic family. Surfing was never a key in that, but everybody was very athletic growing up. I don't know. I was really rambunctious as a kid, and I wanted to try everything. So I was the expensive child, I guess, for a little bit. I actually started out with ice hockey in 8th grade. I played on a boys' league, and they had no idea that I was a girl. I would tie my hair up really tight and wear a hat to practice every day. And about a year in, they found out that I was a girl, and they wouldn't touch, like there was no checking. So I had to stop that. But I loved that. And that kind of got me into contact sports because that's a very physical sport. We were very physical at that age, actually. And and I played that. I played in a league in Princeton, and then I went to high school, and I ended up playing 3 varsity sports all 4 years. I played water polo, lacrosse, and basketball. So it was one after the other. Yeah.
And then you would guard in the summers.
Yep.
Yeah. That's awesome. New Jersey has such a rich, athletic tradition in general, but from a lifeguarding standpoint, like such a competitive summer scene on, in the
Yeah.
guarding community.
Yep. I grew up with great mentors through junior guards, and I actually just saw a couple of them at the beach the other day when I was back home, and it's nice to see that. Yeah, I'm trying to get more women involved out here because it was nice to have women. They really empowered me as a kid, seeing them as a lifeguard and
Sure.
us. So I definitely want to get involved out here.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what can you say about your kind of surfing evolution moving into bigger surf? Because it seems to be what you're focused on now the most.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. How did surfing on a foam board at 7 in Manasquan become running 20-foot waves in Waimea Bay?
It was pretty aggressive. It's been pretty aggressive since I landed on the island about 5 years ago. I started out at Aukai and kind of just made my way up on a shortboard. I had a lot of uncles pushing me each season, kind of going bigger and bigger. And as I got to that sort of in between big and small, I was like, whoa, like I like this. And I kind of started to understand what it took to get to the next levels. Because if you rush it if you go too fast, you end up in a lot of trouble out here. This is a very different ocean than we grew up with. It's incredibly powerful. Some people go to the Jersey Shore and they're like, whoa, waves. The North Shore, it's just not even comparable. It's so powerful. It's so strong. There's a lot to learn out here. So I really took the time to do that. And I had great mentors, and I'm so thankful for them. They've kept me safe so far. I've had some definitely iffy sessions, but I think that's what it takes to progress, each year. You have to get yourself into those pretty uncomfortable situations to say, okay, well, like I need to switch this in my training. I need to do more of this. That wasn't good. That wasn't the right board. I shouldn't have been out there yet.
Yeah.
There's a lot of learning lessons, but I think it was actually that January 16th day, 2021. I sat at the bay for about 8-9 hours straight. It was a massive swell. It was probably 40-foot Hawaiian. I'm sorry, like 30-foot Hawaiian, maxing out the bay. And I saw a couple girls paddle out, and I was like, this is just the craziest thing I've ever seen. I'd never seen that. Most people think, oh, I had posters of Waimea on my wall as a kid. No, I didn't. I didn't even know that this existed. So there were some eye-opening moments here that happened pretty early on. And yeah, that day at the bay, I was like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen, and I want to do that.
And who have some of your mentors been? Who are some of the folks that have helped you learn in Hawaii?
Yeah. My uncle Rex, he's been a huge part of my progression out here. And Alika Annex, he's really pushed me with big waves. We do a lot of training together in the summer. He's an animal. And he's been charging big waves for a very long time. So he's incredibly knowledgeable. And he's got the kind of spirit that I like.
Mm.
Yeah.
What's that like? What's his energy like?
It's aggressive but calculated.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of exactly like me.
Nice. And what does your training look like? What is if you could talk about the physical, breathing and mental aspects to what you do in and out of the water?
Yeah, so I've learned, at first I thought it was a lot more physical than I think it is. A lot of people say that it's 90% mental and 10% physical surfing big waves. growing up as an athlete, I couldn't get that in my brain. Like I still can't really wrap my head around that. I personally want to be when I'm as fit as I can possibly be, my mental is a lot stronger. I'm more confident. I know that I can handle things. Some people don't train at all and they surf phenomenal waves. I can't do that. So I do a lot of training, a lot of cardio, a lot of apnea. I do runs, like kind of focusing on my heart rate. And I swim, I paddle. I just started prone paddling this last summer and it's been really incredible. I really, really enjoy it. What else do? I rock run and I use Ricardo, Eco Dive Hawaii. He does a really great apnea course. It's a very intense weekend of your life. Don't go to work on Monday. You'll want to die. And his training has really helped me stay calm under pressure.
Yeah, I have a couple of buddies that have done that course, and they all had amazing experiences.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. So describe, like, in addition to, I mean, it sounds like you have a really diverse training kind of approach. How do you care for yourself out in the water? I mean, do you have a yoga practice? Is there anything that you do to kind of balance, all of this stuff that you do to keep yourself sharp?
Yeah, we're slowly learning. I was really bad in high school and college with that, and I think I just got lucky with good genes and, good bone health, and I don't even know. But I'm slowly putting those things into practice, doing more stretching, getting massages. I need to get somebody to adjust me throughout the winter. I just actually had my girlfriend. I was like, we're going to do this every week, maybe in the winter, every 2 weeks. Because last winter I got really messed up and I could like barely move my shoulders and I was constantly going out and it was like ripping through my upper body. So I need to take a lot better care of myself. Hydrating. I eat healthy. I had a hard time hydrating last winter. It's hard when you're out there for so long.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things that I'm altering to make sure that there's longevity in this, because that's kind of the whole goal.
Yeah. It's like, how do we do what we love for as long as we can, as well as we can?
And you see people doing that here. I mean, there's 7-year-olds out there. It's nuts. The North Shore is like, it's an adult playground with many different ages.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, it's so inspiring to be around that.
It's incredible. I'm like around people that idols, absolute idols. Yeah.
Yeah. Where else do you start when it's not breaking on the North Shore?
Nowhere. I train. I body surf a lot because I grew up body surfing with my family. That's kind of what we did in the ocean.
Mhm.
I've got a great place right up the road, Pounders, and I go do some body surfing.
Or
I rarely go South Shore. It's got to be pumping for me to make that hour trip down south.
so have you lived on the North Shore the whole time you've been in Hawaii, or did you land somewhere first?
No, Haula.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think month 1 we moved up here, bought the house.
Cool. Good to
Yeah.
know. You submitted an amazing wave in the 23-24 submission season for the new Big Wave Challenge. Grant Twiggy Baker, notably kind of gave you a shout out. I mean, that was an incredible line, just a super late drop. Tell us about that experience and maybe some other formative, critical, powerful experiences you've had in different sessions.
Yeah, that was a pretty insane day. Ironically, those waves weren't happening too often. That was like an in-between kind of situation. That was a random bomb, and me and my girlfriend Raquel, she's a huge wave surfer, somebody that I look up to as well, and we were we were just drifting way out the back, and we saw this wave come, and I looked at her, she looked at me, she was like, go. And I just put my head down. It was pretty nuts. It was a very vertical drop. I just remember looking down on this and I was like, what the fuck did you just, I did not think I was going to make that. And thank God I was on one of my trusty Chuck boards. He gives me a good rocker. And yeah, that was a really crazy wave. I remember the lifeguard on the jet ski at the bay. He was like this and I was like this. And he was like, you need to go to the cliffs. Like you have to go get a video of that. That was mental. Felt pretty good. And then to see it after, I was like, what? Like it's hard to like see what you've done afterwards. It's still kind of a trip. Because that was definitely the next level for me. So that was an incredible base session for sure.
It looked like on that wave, somebody inside of you paddled and then stopped, and you took off. I think as late as you possibly at a critical point as possible for that wave at that time.
Yeah.
Whoever that was probably made a good choice in slowing their paddle. I think they might not have made it, but you took off right under the lip.
Yeah. That's been
Very
my goal
impressive.
too. I definitely I watch the other girls, obviously as I've been progressing. I've got an eye out for everybody and what everybody's doing. And my goal with big waves as a female was just to draw good lines, to not pull straight and get annihilated. I still don't understand that at all. Like I won't go if I don't think that I can ride the wave. I just don't see the purpose in pulling straight and getting hit by a bus. Like it just doesn't make any sense to me. So that's been my goal, and I'm glad that I accomplished that last year. I think that was a lot to do with training at sunset. I think if you're not training at sunset, you're doing something wrong. If you can't take off on a 10, 12-foot sunset bomb and make it across, 2 different sections, I don't know. I'm just trying to progress this sport in the right direction, and the women are absolutely charging, and I think it's going there. But I think for a long time it was kind of getting stuck at this, I've got the balls and I'm gonna go, and it was just sort of like big annihilations. And I'm not there for that at all.
How did you connect with your shaper, Chuck Andrews?
I think it was my Uncle Rex that initially said, hey, you should go to Chuck. Who was it? No, it was my friend Joey. Joey flipped one of his boards out to Jocko's. It was a mini gun. It was like a 711. And it was like the most incredible thing I've ever ridden. And it's like, you should go get one shaped. And I did. And it's progressed from there. He's been shaping me boards for years now. We've got a really good relationship, and he's really dialing my boards in to fit me.
What are some things you're working on with him? If you could shed maybe a little light on like some of the specifics with the design.
Yeah, we were.
Board shapes.
He says I remind him of his middle daughter. So there's also, I find with shapers on the North Shore, there's some of them are still a little bit dated with girls surfing big waves. And I tend to see them make boards that are a bit safer, wider tails, just like a little bit bulkier. So Chuck sort of did that in the beginning, and then I was like, hey, cut that out. Like I don't want that. So slowly tapering the tails and making them like a little bit more, just a little more aggressive. What he's doing right now, we're slowly bringing a little bit more chest volume right about here, wide point forward, and we're tapering the tail. Sorry, I'm talking.
You're riding a pintail or round tail?
And
yeah.
So they were just a little chunky, but there's a lot of stability in that. So the wave that I took at the bay, I mean, if it wasn't that shape, I would have had a problem. Like if I had flattened out the nose a little bit to make my paddling a little more aggressive, I would have eaten it at the bottom of that wave. You could see my board just barely making that drop. So we've kind of kept that. We've just added a little bit more weight forward and taken a little bit more weight off the tail.
Yeah. I'm going to see if I can show that wave for folks who see this on YouTube. Let me share my screen for a second. Maybe you can narrate what was going on for that ride, because it's cool to hear you describe the board mechanics. Here we go. Can we see that? All right, so I'll start this at the back as much as I can. So this is that first rider that doesn't catch it. And there's Corrie dropping in. Super steep right here.
Really steep. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of just, I'm pretty sure my eyes were closed when I made that drop.
Yeah, I mean, your arms look super relaxed though. Like, look here again. We'll show it again. You're like, I got this.
Yeah, I was pretty sure I was relaxed, so I thought I was going to die.
But
no, it was good. It was good. I felt in control.
Beautiful ride. Beautiful ride. What would you call that wave? Had to be 20.
Probably.
Yeah. Really cool. Yeah. So Sunset, you're riding there a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, Sunset is a training ground for sure. The hold downs are super gnarly. It's a really powerful wave. And it's a place that a lot of people don't, there's no inflation, there's no padded suits. There's kind of like this, there's a real pecking order at Sunset, and it's taken many years to kind of prove myself out there. And a lot of that has to do with the equipment you're wearing and using. Yeah, there's like an unspoken rule about the flotation and the suits. It's kind of like it's like a no-go zone, but it's like one of the only places that you really want it. You get drugged really hard at Sunset. You can have really, really intense moments out there, and it's a far out break. You're getting drugged real far. So it's powerful. But it teaches you how to surf. You don't pull straight at Sunset. It's a huge wave. There's lots to play with. You can really feel out your big boards too. There's a lot you can do on a wave out there versus the bay. It's kind of like short and sweet. Sunset can have many different sections. It can barrel on the inside, really crazy. It's an incredible wave. It's an incredible wave, but it's also unpredictable. You know, Kelly Slater hates it. There's a lot of people who hate it, but that's because it's really challenging. You never really master Sunset, as they say. But I think a lot of the uncles have come close. It's pretty cool to watch them.
So dynamic, that wave.
Oh yeah.
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 Are there any surfing experiences or waves perhaps that are kind of on your horizon, or you're looking to maybe diversify your riding with fun experiences?
Yeah, a lot of people are like, you need to travel, you need to go check out this wave. And there's a part of me that's like, that's incredible. I would love to do that. But there's also a part of me that's like, there's phenomenal waves right up the road from me that I still I don't really have a grasp on. So I don't really see myself needing or want, like, I don't have that deep desire to like go to Chile. You know, I see the waves over there and I'm like, that's pretty incredible. But I would want like a solid year to figure that out. I think big wave surfers, to call yourself a big wave surfer, is to be able to travel and go to these places and perform on waves that you've never been in before. And I'm not there. I am certainly not there. Maybe in 10 years, I'll feel confident to go to Ireland and get out into the deep sea and surf a gigantic wave. But right now, I think I'm focusing on the North Shore and maybe a Jaws day in the future. But the Himalayas is a wave that I'd like to spend some more time at. I almost drowned there about 3 years ago. I had a real close call, and it's been really hard for me to get back out there, kind of clear that mental space. It's been a real challenge. Even though I'm confident in size now, just something I just can't get my head straight there. So that's been a goal for me for a while.
Let's talk about that. Because that's super interesting, I think, to, how will this presents a challenge. How will you approach that mental piece? What are some things you see being beneficial in that process?
I think going out a little bit smaller, maybe getting myself intentionally in a place where I'm going to take sets on the head and realizing that I've progressed with my apnea, my training, and my surfing, and that I can handle that. Instead of just like going out when it's 40 foot, just go out when it's 15 and just kind of play and get back into that. But it's hard. The Himalayas only breaks when it's like, 10-foot Hawaiian. So it doesn't really break small. Yeah. And then I've got uncles out there that are always like, come on, Corey, to the peak. And I'm like, give me a minute. Like, let me just fill in the fucking shoulder for a second, man.
Yeah.
Would constantly like, go get the bomb, Yeah, there's some work to be done out there. That was a scary time. That was kind of part of learning about equipment and using the right equipment. And I had no flotation on. Thank God I had literally just taken Ricardo's course, and he was there on the channel, and he watched me take a 2-wave hold down for the first time in my life. It was probably the biggest surf I've ever been out in at that time. And the first wave was a 2-wave hold down, and I came up, and I actually didn't even realize it was a 2-wave hold down. I thought it was just like, whoa, this is really powerful. I was under there for a while. And then I took about like 8 more on the head, and for some reason it just kept me in the impact zone. And yeah, I lost all motor control, all use of my arms and legs by the 8th one. Wow. I was kind of like slinking onto my board, just trying to keep my head above water. And Ricardo was like, "You're okay," and I was like, "You better come get me right now." Like, I'm actually not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was later in his course, like a couple months later, I took his course again. He was like, "Corey, let's talk about your 2-wave hold down." And I was like, "My what?" So yeah, that was a trip. On the wrong board, rotation, bad. Just wrong.
You're turning it into a learning experience.
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever played with what I think you're talking about, it's kind of like, a psychotherapist might call it exposure therapy. It's just reintroducing the stressful trigger. Have you ever explored visualization on your own outside of the water, or maybe in the water between sets?
Say that again.
Have you ever explored visualization as a kind of a mental practice?
Yeah, I think that I have. I think I actually experienced a little bit of PTSD from that. I was having a hard time being in water without like doing a breath hold. Every time I was just like at the bay and it's flat and I was just hanging out with girlfriends, I'd be like, okay, how long can you hold your breath for? But so that kind of subsided. And then, yeah, there was some visualization that I had to do for that spot, and I'm still doing it.
And what does that practice look like for you? Do you have a daily routine, or how do you approach that?
I approached that in as peaceful as a manner as I could, kind of seeing myself riding a wave, getting myself out of a situation that I was in, realizing that I didn't drowned and that I actually could handle that. That's sort of the big lesson there, was that I didn't black out, which means technically I can handle that. You know what I mean? But Himalaya, I think I do that also when I'm out there sitting on my board. There's a lot of visualization to sort of be like, okay, like, here you are. You're going to take this wave. You're going to make it to the channel. Yeah, it's still hard for me out there. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you're training your nervous system. I mean, that's in a super challenging environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is it like balancing work as a realtor and basically life as a pro athlete on the North Shore? How do you do that?
I kind of chose this career based on the flexibility that it can have. Real estate can also be a 24/7 job, so it's kind of tricky. But you can choose to kind of really aggressively go after clients or kind of pull back. So during the summer, most people nobody sees anybody, everybody's working. And then in the winter, you tend to take a little bit of time off. So that's been nice, but there's been sessions where I'll come out of the water and I'll have to answer phone calls or, unscrew something on a contract, and I'm wet in the parking lot texting. But I think it's fine. It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and working freelance, working for yourself, all of it, I'm kind of doing everything by myself, which is new for me. I've always had a boss, I've always had a structure, and same with sports. This has been really hard for me to keep myself motivated, because I've always played a team sport and I've always had a coach. So to have neither of those things has been challenging. It's been challenging, and I think that's one of my goals, is to get a good coach out here. And there's some phenomenal coaches. They're very expensive. But that's the next step, because I think I'm doing a good job on my own, but I'd like to have that support. I think that was really good for me previously, and I don't see why it wouldn't be good for me now.
Makes a lot of sense. Having kind of like a business coach to support your growth in that realm.
Yep.
As you do wish the uncles on the water, everyone's needing to learn from someone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember what it was like as a recreational surfer working in a corporate job in Honolulu I lived there for about 6.5 years. I found that challenging. So I mean, what you're doing is at a higher level, being the employee and the employer and managing, a big wave surfing journey.
Yeah, I'm winging it. I'll say that.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot of winging it. I've got, I'm an ambassador for a beer company. I've got a meeting in a couple of days with a distillery, which is ironic. I don't know what's going on with the alcohol. I don't really drink. So it's it's like a little weird to be an athlete and like kind of sponsor this, but it's great. And I'm still learning how to do that too. Like the social media, I've never been really good with technology and my social presence. It's hard for me to do all of that. I'm not naturally like that. So I'm learning a lot as I go along. And I know that that's part of, progressing, is these sponsorships to really make a career of something. And I'm still not even sure if that's what I want. But it's just kind of happening. So yeah, even competing, I wasn't even sure about Red Bull. Last year, I find competing in big waves to be kind of odd. It's so personal what you're willing to do with your body. And I always found it to be kind of an odd concept, being competitive about it. I don't know. I just feel like anybody that's surfing big waves is doing it because they love it. and not because they want to win something. Like maybe Lucas or something, maybe they have that kind of energy, but I feel like the vast majority are just doing it because they love it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing this, you know?
Right.
And for women, there's really nothing you're gaining from this. I mean, there's like 3 girls in the world that have made this career.
Yeah.
Nobody's sponsoring women to do this full time. Everybody's got a job or they have, I don't know, family money or something. But it's a hard thing to balance, and it does take over your life. I'll say that. I think this has fully taken over my life. Yeah, it tends to be I think everybody can agree that this takes over your life in some manner. Everything you do ends up being kind of towards or leading towards that goal.
I think it's really cool that you're navigating and shaping your lifestyle to suit the thing you love to do the most.
Yeah, you can ask
That
your
inspires.
husband.
That inspires me. I think that would be inspiring to others.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, you have to put things on the back burner, and you have to. It's been hard. It's been hard, and I'm really thankful for my husband. He's a great support human. um, and I don't think that you can do this alone. I think you have to have people supporting you with this because, yeah, you can't. I can't be a top 1% realtor and do this. I can't work that full 9 to 5. Nobody's working a 9 to 5 that does this except for Maddie, the lifeguard. That's a little bit different. She's got like kind of a physical job, and it's, you know, obviously centered around the ocean. So it's kind of a leg up in the 9 to 5, but it takes out a lot of limited opportunity for work. You have to really pick your career properly to make this work, I think. And I'm trying to do that, and it kind of feels like multiple personality disorder because I don't wear dresses, and here I am in a dress selling homes. But I'm making it work. It's good money, and you can work really hard for 5 months and then take some time off, and you can't do that in most jobs, and that's kind of required if you want to make this. If you really want to do this, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I imagine the seasonal rhythm would be nice in the sense that you can find balance in a sense that
Yeah.
way.
But then you're also not surfing. So there's a lot of people who travel in the summer. I have no idea financially how they're doing this. Living in Hawaii, as you know, is incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
I don't have the means to be traveling all summer. I need to be here working. I also am not at the point where I can necessarily take the whole winter off. If I have clients, they're my priority.
Mhm.
Obviously, if the bay calls the day, then like we're there, and maybe the property you want to see is going to wait 2 hours, and that's fine. I actually have typically just worked with surfers and people who love the ocean, so that's been really good to kind of hone in on my little niche network.
Sure.
Understanding there too. I mean, they don't want to go see homes when the surf is pumping, so it works for everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, the North Shore is a fantastic training ground in the summer. I mean, we've got flat surf conditions. You can prone paddle. There's beach running, and everybody's doing it. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of energy of training in the summer that's pretty incredible if you stick around. But a lot of people they leave, and there's some jealousy there. You know, I'm watching girls charging big waves throughout the summer, and I know they have a huge leg up on me when they come back because they're in that mental space. It is hard to take 6 months off and then get thrown into big surf again. That's really challenging, and you can see their mental leg up on you when they paddle out. So that's the goal. Maybe make one trip, one good solid month-long trip in the summer, and kind of keep that momentum going would be really good because it is hard to go on and off like this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're balancing a lot right there. Is most of your business in town or on the North Shore? Are you trying to focus your work around that surf community on the North Shore, or is it kind of all around the island?
I mean, obviously, I'm new in this career, and I'll take anybody. So if somebody wants a condo in the city, we're gonna go look at condos in the city. But for the most part, I have been kind of focusing up here. Um, my 3 clients right now, everybody wants to buy in Hauula. I've convinced people, which is the most beautiful place in the entire world, on this island and for
It's very nice.
yeah, so I'm slowly converting. Um, so that's great. I mean, that's great for
Yeah,
me. It's my back door, and yeah, I would love to be able to fully keep it up here, but I'm not gonna turn somebody down because they want to go look in Mililani.
sure,
Yeah.
sure. Um, you mentioned you have an interest in it's at some point getting involved in the junior lifeguarding community or possibly mentoring in that space. Um, have you ever coached in other capacities? I mean, besides the lifeguarding back home, or
No.
how could how do you see that becoming a part of your life potentially?
Yeah, that's interesting. I've actually never coached any sport before, which is a little odd now that I think about it. Yeah, it was something that I thought about actually when I initially got on island, especially water polo for some reason.
Mm.
Um, I
There's
I
some
ended up
there's some great water polo programs in
and I
Hawaii.
just feel like these women are killer out here. I mean, the Hawaiian, the Samoans, I would die if I saw a full Hawaiian Samoan team come against our team back in New Jersey. I mean, we would just be like, forget it, like forfeit. Thanks for coming. Um, so yeah, I would have loved to get involved with that. I think it just sort of took off. I ended up working in the mortgage industry after buying the house. Actually, that's kind of what led me down this real estate road. But junior guards, I don't know, it holds a little piece of my childhood in my heart. Um, and I love seeing the kids learn about ocean safety so young, especially out here. I mean, it's so big. These kids are saving people's lives after going through junior guards. There's a lot of beaches here that have no lifeguards, and there's plenty of tourists everywhere that are from center of, the mainland, and they don't know.
Yeah,
Um, and this program seems to be a little bit more legit than what was going on in New Jersey, which makes sense given where we are. And I don't know, I just saw a lack of female presence. And that was, like, for argument's sake, just on the North Shore. I don't know about other programs around the island, but just the North Shore program, I did notice because I train at the Bay, and they do their junior guard training at the Bay in the morning. And I just realized there was no girls. Um, and I thought,
it's a
that's
miss.
yeah, there's plenty of young girls there that could use a good mentor.
Yeah,
I remember how important that was for me, seeing women ahead of me. Yeah, and there's so many phenomenal females here. There's so many phenomenal athletes. It's like,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, I used to coach boys high school club lacrosse at Pono, and it was so fun to just bring kids from other athletic backgrounds to the sport and like teach it and just see what they could do. It was really fun.
Wow.
We had water polo kids, we had football kids, we had soccer and swimmers and surfers and um, there's a unique um, way that sport brings people together and helps evolve us as humans. Um, yeah, it'd be really cool to see you.
Yeah,
Coach
I mean,
Corrie.
there's like different kind of levels to this here. I feel like even on my street, there's kids that don't know how to swim, and as you can see, the ocean is literally right there. So it kind of, I almost want to like start small before I go and be like, hey, I want to like maybe assistant coach water polo at the high school up the road or something. But I think I would like to start small with my community here. Get these kids in the ocean. I mean, we've got pounders right up the road, and these kids are crazy. I mean, they're popping wheelies on motorbikes, and they're like 10 years old. They're nuts. Their athletic ability is unmatched, and it's just not channeled anywhere. Like there's no vision there with it. And they're always asking me, Auntie, when are you taking me to the beach? You know, and I'm like, okay, like we gotta touch. And my uncle Gakai, he has like a little program up at Pounders, and he hooks up some of the local kids who maybe can't buy fins or a board, and so I want to get involved with that. I think that's a good start for me to kind of coach, if you might.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds amazing. There's certainly an opportunity there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you progress in your journey, what are some of your goals?
My goals are to keep drawing really good lines.
Yeah.
Honest to God, that's like the end result. Obviously go bigger. I would love to get barreled. I watched my uncle Alika get barreled. He would kill me if he just heard me say uncle. He's turning 50 in like a couple days, so he's there. Alika gets barreled at Himalayas, and it's like the most incredible thing to see. Wow. It's honestly like mind-boggling. So a barrel, maybe a big barrel. But I think just drawing good lines, getting more comfortable on the big boards, being able to like really just surf the wave. Don't just pull, just don't just go with the wave, like do something.
Yeah.
And I think women's surfing is heading there. I mean, we've had like a really crazy 2 years. Like the progression is like out of this world. What's happened in the last 2 years, I don't even know what the hell is going on. But
Yeah.
I think we've kind of had enough with being pushed aside, and I think we're proving that we belong out there, and it's motivating. And thanks to KK and all the girls that came before, they got us to the place we are now, and I think this next generation is really moving in strong, and that's people younger than me. I'm a little rookie here, but some of these young girls are nuts, and they're our future, and it's really cool to see.
That's awesome. What's it like when you're with your peer surf community, women who ride bigger waves? And how is there tension? Is it supportive? What's that like?
Yeah, I think girls are just girls at the end of the day. There's a little bit of catty behavior. I just stay fully away from that. I've always hung out with guys. I've always had guy best friends. And that hasn't changed since I moved here. So competing with the girls this winter was, it was interesting. I think you can see who's like in it to win it and who's there because they love surfing big waves. And I've kind of just stuck with the people that are there because they love surfing big waves. What was the question?
Yeah, just kind of describing what how the group
Community. Yeah.
may support each other and in the pursuit. Yeah.
I found the men in my personal experience to be extremely supportive of what I'm doing. And I've had fantastic females as well. But I can also see that competitive side where it's like they almost don't want you to progress because you're progressing too fast or something, and it's making them uncomfortable. I'm not like that at all. If I see a girl take off on a big wave and they surf that wave fantastic, like I'm so stoked. I don't give a shit who you are. If you're below me, above me, I've never seen you before. I love it. I love seeing women surfing. And I can see that some other women are very competitive in that space and are maybe not so stoked. But I think that's a weird form of jealousy that needs to be cut out, because there's like 30 of us around the world that want to be here and do this.
Yes.
If you don't do this if you don't want this. You stop at 8 foot and you're like, thanks, that was fun, I'm done with that. You know what I mean? So it takes a certain person, and there's just there's like 30 of us. I mean, we should be fully supporting each other. Each and every one of us should be fully supportive of each and every one of our journeys. And I think it's crazy that there's people who are not like that. This is not women's lacrosse. There's not 10,000 people doing this. So I think that's pretty nuts. And I think that, I don't know, I'm trying to be the change in that manner. I'm supportive of anybody. And if somebody's like, hey, I want to, bump it up to this level, I'm like, okay, like, let's talk about your board, because I went through that and people helped me through that. And I just feel like any woman that wants to do that should have that support and that mentorship. And if you're not there for other women to get to that next level, I don't really know what to say. I don't really support that in any way. The women in the beginning really stuck together, and they've still stuck together, and you can tell that bond that they have in the ocean. And I feel like that's slowly starting to kind of come apart in this next generation. And I think that we need to come right back together again. Especially as this progresses out and more people are joining in on this fun. I think we need to be fully supportive. But I think most of my support has come from the uncles and the guys that I surfed with. Yeah, I mean, there were some phenomenal girls that have held my hand through this. Raquel, Amy Erickson, out at Sunset, Amelia Perry. There's been some great people in my life so far that have been really supportive. But I think that everybody needs to come together and realize that this is fucking crazy. And if you're crazy enough to want to do that, like, we need to love each other,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you highlighting that message.
Yeah.
Very positive. And I wonder if you might see how your background as a team sport athlete is kind of coming through there.
Yeah, probably. There's definitely girls that didn't grow up like that. And you can tell. Yeah, you can definitely tell that they have only known an individual sport before. So yeah, I think some of the team mentality is there. And that's also what makes it really hard for me to compete. Like, who the fuck am I competing against? It's me, my body getting thrown over that ledge, like nobody else. So that's been a little weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been really cool. As we kind of approach the end, how can people follow you, and how can folks, who might be interested in beginning their surfing journey or progressing their surfing journey as a female, learn and maybe connect with you?
Yeah. I think social media, message me on Instagram if you're coming out here. I'm still a rookie in the big waves, but I have a great network of people, and I think I've progressed safely and in a good manner. And I would love to share that with anybody that wants to do the same.
Awesome. Corrie, what can you say about managing fear as you move through this journey, in this process? What is that like? And what can you say about how fear is an integral part of this surfing journey in big waves?
Yeah, it's an integral part. If you're paddling out into 20-foot Hawaiian surf and and there's no fear, something's not right. We have fight or flight for a reason, and it should be on in kind of a safe way, and that's where the calculation sort of comes in. Some people are a little crazy and some people are calculated, but the fear is there. And I think it's not talked about enough. I think a lot of people think that we're just out there and we're crazy and we're doing this, but no, there's plenty of fear. There's plenty of anxiety, and that's where a lot of the mental, I think, comes in. Sometimes you just think of the bad wipeouts and you're underwater, but no, even just sitting out there, you really have to channel that fear and all of your training and then take that wave. But when I had that session at Himalayas, I had a really hard time. Afterwards, I felt kind of alone in that fear and in those feelings. I would definitely say I had PTSD from that, just based off of how I was feeling in water. Even in the shower, I ended up doing breath holds in the shower, which is crazy. And I had a hard time finding resources for that. Nobody talks about it. The whole community for a long time never talked about the fear that's involved in big wave surfing. And I think it is just starting to come out. I took BRAG, Big Wave Risk Assessment Group, came to Oahu, phenomenal group of humans. And that was the first time I heard, Greg Long. That was the first time I heard him talk about fear, and being scared and some of his wipeouts and fold downs, and it made me feel kind of seen, and it helped me cope with that session, that I wasn't alone in that. And I think that the women, because we're always like one step behind and we're always having to prove ourselves more than the men are, I guess, in this scene, I think there's been a lot of closed off conversations and emotions about fear. And I'm trying to change that. I think it's just not right. Even when I had that hold down, I actually reached out to some of the girls and I was like, hey, like, have you ever experienced this? And they're like, oh, like, you're fine. And I was like, no, like, it wasn't fine. Nothing about that was fine. It took me a year to be fine. So I think that there should be more conversation about that, especially as this next generation steps into these big waves, younger and younger. I think that they should have resources and they should know that what they just went through is natural and it's okay and it's part of the progression. And there's nobody, I would say with 99% certainty, there is not one big wave surfer that didn't have a session that absolutely shocked them to their core. That they might reach and didn't grab that sand and sit there, maybe cry, maybe vomit. There's literally no way. And it needs to be talked about. It's a huge part of the progression and what happens. We don't just surf big waves. There's horrifying moments that are involved in surfing big waves. Yeah. And it's not if, but when. Just like an injury, I've been thankful to not being gravely injured so far. But at some point, if I keep doing this, I'm going to break a collarbone. Something's going to happen, because it's just kind of part of it. Just like the fear, just like the hold downs, there's going to be injury. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that you're highlighting this. I think this is important. Another huge opportunity, I think, is as you grow in your career to continue to be a leader in this sense too. There was a great book. I won't call it a great book, but it was one of my favorite writers from Hawaii, Paul Theroux, wrote a novel called Under the Wave at Waimea. And again, great writer, not his best work, but he talks about this character who's like an aging, really high level champion surfer on the North Shore who has a near-death experience at Waimea, and all the things that happen after. His life kind of just unravels. But you hit on those themes, like the nervous system, the human on every level has to process this trauma that the body endures, whether it's a car accident or a near-death experience in the water. And I think you're absolutely right. I think there could be a lot more intentionality around the way that's addressed in the surfing community.
Yeah. And you were talking about, work-life balance. Right after I had to go to a cubicle, 9 to 5. I sat
Wow.
there for 3 hours. So there's also like the reality of, that was a morning session and then you're going to work. So you're balancing a whole different thing with your work. Nobody else in that office was going through something like that because they drank coffee and came to work like a normal person. So yeah, there's a lot of regulating the nervous system that takes a long time to figure out, that was never a part of lacrosse or water polo or basketball, So it's a lot on your mind. It's kind of constantly on your mind, I think. And those sessions where you black out, something really bad happens, and then you choose to keep doing that. I think that's what starts to make you become a big wave surfer. I think those next steps, most people have that experience at Himalayas and they're like, fuck that. I'm literally never doing that again. That was terrifying. And everything in my brain was saying, look, that was horrifying. What do I do to prevent that? Never in my mind, okay, that we gotta stop this. It was, what did I miss in my training that led me to this position that I just went through, this situation? And I think that drive after these bad experiences is what sets people apart and what creates a big wave surfer in the end is kind of that accumulation of bad and progressing from the bad instead of regressing,
Or hitting eject. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever explored yoga?
No. And well, I did a little bit in Costa Rica. I spent like 6 months in Asara, and it's like a yoga, destination. Now it is where it was dirt roads and good food. But I tried and I get really competitive. And I'm not good. So I need to circle back to that in a different headspace and be like, you suck and you need to chill and do this slowly.
Why do you say you're not? That's interesting. Why do you say I'm not good? What makes you feel that way?
Pulling muscles right and left. Like I just watched somebody who'd been doing yoga for 20 years and was like, I can do that, and that's crazy. So I definitely need to do some yoga. I've been told that I have got a natural flexibility, which is good. I think it's prevented a lot of injuries, but I'm not taking the precautions I should with my body with what I'm doing. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. As a yoga therapist who works with athletes, I run into this a lot, this idea that like yoga is like a performative, I'm good at it, I'm not, I know how to do it, I don't. Really, like to me, what I teach when I work with folks is yoga as a lifestyle science. Yoga as a regulation knob to balance our nervous system, to balance our body, energy, mind. So it's, I think that's a very like common thing that I think that in general, our culture gets wrong. In the West, we don't get the meaning of yoga for the most part, because it's offered as a gym class or fitness, and practice. But anyway,
I like, yes.
yeah. Any final thoughts, reflections, or insights you want to share?
And come surf big waves. If it's something that you've seen, if that's on social media or you're watching, Jaws Big Wave Challenge and you're like, I want to try that. It will take over your life completely, but in a really good, healthy, positive way. And I say, if there's a little drawing that you have, listen to it and give it a shot.
Really cool. Really cool. Thank you so much for your time and your openness to share your story and your experience. See where this ripples out to, and hopefully, we can find some new connections.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah. We'll talk soon. I hope this show helps us all access our highest potential. You can learn more about my work as a yoga therapist at flowstateyogatherapy.com or on social media at flowstateyogatherapy. You can also email me at flowstateyogatherapy@gmail.com. I look forward to connecting with you all. I hope you find an interesting nugget in this episode. I hope you share this with a friend, and I hope you reach out to me with feedback. It is valuable. Thank you again, and enjoy the journey.